January 9th, 2021. This week, we witnessed an attempted coup d'etat instigated by the very stable genius, his own self, President American Carnage, who, like a 2-year-old brat, refuses to accept the fact that he lost November's election bigly. Since then, the very unstable idiot-in-chief has been throwing a months-long temper tantrum and urging his dead-end supporters, including his own vice president, to refute the Constitution, reject the electoral results, and overthrow the government. And who could have predicted Wednesday's armed insurrection? And make no mistake, that's exactly what it was. Well, anyone and everyone who's been paying any attention to the little bitch in the White House since way before he became the little bitch in the White House. Back in 2016, El Apprentice Dente said he wouldn't accept the results of that election if things didn't go his way. And even when things did go his way, he still refused to accept the results, whining for the last 4 years that he actually won the popular vote, which he just missed by some 3 million ballots. And, of course, throughout the year of our COVID 2020, the incumbent vowed that the only way he'd come up short in that election was if they stole it. And come up short he did, by some 7 million popular and 74 electoral votes. And since being humble in victory and gracious in defeat isn't what 2-year-olds do, the orangutan and his clown posse of attorneys have sued anyone they could think of to have the results of a free and fair election thrown out. All the while, the biggest loser continued to hold his Nuremberg rallies, while all the white GOP acolytes in Congress bended the knee out of fear. Fear of the leader of their own party, to be sure, but even more out of fear of the monster they created over decades of fear-mongering and hate. So Wednesday's protests were bound to erupt in violence. And when Putin's puppet urged the mob to sack the Capitol, well, they didn't need logic and reason to dissuade them. And despite promising to lead the march, King Donald the Last retreated to his walled-off mansion where he could cheer on the destruction from afar, because the emperor has no clothes, and Donald Trump is a coward. Still, 140-odd members of Congress and United States senators objected to counting electoral votes from Arizona and Pennsylvania, even after the failed putsch, without so much as a shred of evidence or testimony of voter fraud. This was an act of treason. The president and his congressional allies are traitors to their country. In 1649, following a 6-year civil war, King Charles I was put on trial by the English Parliament for betraying his country, found guilty, and executed for treason on January 30th of that year. I used to ask my Western Civ students if they could imagine how a king could be a traitor to his own country. Now, some 372 years to the month later, an American president has completed the betrayal of his oath of office to defend and protect the Constitution. He's not likely to resign, and the cabinet will almost certainly not invoke the 25th Amendment to remove him from office. So Congress must impeach him for instigating this insurrection. A year ago, I argued against impeachment and in favor of censure because I didn't and still don't think the phone call to the president of Ukraine warranted the president's removal from office. Now, with just over a week left in the term of an incompetent, horrific despot, Congress must send a clear message that fomenting the violent overthrow of the government brings consequences. Impeach President Coup now. Convict him after Georgia's 2 new senators are seated, and may Donald Trump live out the remainder of his days in desperate, disgraceful isolation.